Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror thriller film, The Orphanage. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a flock of children in identical gray outfits playing on the spacious grounds of an orphanage. They are all happy in the company of each other, but unbeknownst to them, one of the girls is getting adopted that very same day. Decades later, the now adult girl, named Laura, is woken up in the middle of the night by the screams of her son, Simon. She gets out of bed and goes to his bedroom to comfort him. The next morning, a team of movers is busy moving furniture into the same orphanage, which Laura had recently bought. She smiles upon seeing her husband playing the piano in one of the rooms. Laura accompanies Simon to a nearby lighthouse on a beach. The boy goes deeper into the cave right by the lighthouse and explores it with a flashlight. Laura notices that her son is no longer with her, and she follows him inside the cave, shouting his name. She finds him talking to an imaginary friend, a boy that he invites to go to their house later. Laura doesn't take him seriously, but she does look at the dark opening where Simon had been talking to his imaginary friend. She shines her flashlight to the ground and sees a pair of footprints leading deeper into the opening. As they walk back home, Simon leaves a trail of seashells for his imaginary friend to follow to their home. It begins to rain later that afternoon. A social worker named Benigna knocks on the door and asks to speak to Laura regarding Simon. Laura lets Benigna in, and she marvels at the grandness of the old orphanage. Laura shares that she grew up there and she wishes to reopen the orphanage for children with disabilities. But a social worker is more interested in Simon, who is revealed to have been adopted and HIV positive. She hands Laura the adoption file and suggests that they try a new experimental program to treat his illness. Laura is uncomfortable with Benigna's prying into Simon's life, so she quickly explains that her husband is a doctor, and they're already doing the best they can. She makes it clear that they don't need Benigna's help, and she leaves the house shortly after. Laura then locks the documents in a drawer in the kitchen. That night, Laura is awoken by sounds coming from the shed. She goes to the shed herself and discovers Benigna inside holding a shovel. She demands that she explain herself, but the social worker flees into the night. The next morning, Laura discovers a trail of seashells on her doorstep, almost as if someone had collected the seashells Simon had left yesterday. Somewhere inside the house, a door swings shut. She and Simon are hanging out inside one of the rooms talking about Peter Pan. Simon cautiously says that he will never grow old just like his 6 friends. Later, Laura finds her son's drawing depicting his 6 friends. The friends are wearing identical outfits and holding things in their hands. Simon explains that they are playing a game where he has to follow clues to find the treasure coins. If he finds the treasure, then his wish will be granted. He then shows his mother a tin can filled with his baby teeth and says that they're the first clue. Laura goes to her bedside table and retrieves the bottle where she keeps Simon's baby teeth. She finds sand when she opens it. Later, the two find a sandpit near the garden, and they start digging. Laura finds a thimble in the sand, and Simon gets the idea to search the sewing box. The clue there leads them to a Matryoshka doll, showing the key to the drawer with the adoption papers inside. True enough, Simon is able to unlock the drawer with the key. He rejoices when he sees coins inside the drawer, but Laura accuses him of orchestrating the game and reprimands him for messing with her things. Simon gets angry at his mother for not believing him and reveals that his friend Thomas told him that he is an orphan like the rest of his friends and that he will die soon. Laura and her husband decide to talk to Simon and calmly explain to him his adoption and the nature of his illness. The husband tells him about the medications he needs to take regularly so he won't die. The day of the orphanage reopening comes, and so arrive the disabled children who will live there. Laura is throwing a party to welcome them all, and she calls Simon to go downstairs and socialize with their guests. But Simon wants to show her Thoma's little house. Unfortunately, she has no patience for her son's antics that day, and she slaps him for being stubborn. Simon begins to cry, and she tells him that he can stay upstairs if he wants. Laura goes down as the costume party begins on the orphanage grounds. Many children happily play and wear masks, but she doesn't notice one child standing far from the rest. He is wearing a sack over his head and a dark blue smock with the name Thomas sewn on it. She goes upstairs to make up with Simon, but doesn't find him anywhere. The boy follows her, and Laura thinks that it's Simon. But when she tries to remove the sack, the boy shrieks, causing Laura to topple into the bathroom behind her. She grasps at the boy and tears away a scrap from his clothing. The boy closes the door, and it crushes her fingers. He then locks her inside with a key. Laura calls for her husband to open the door. She races out of the bathroom and frantically looks for Simon in the house, even knocking down some scaffolding in her haste to open doors and cabinets. But there is still no sign of him, not even when Laura starts searching for him outside too. After that, she runs to the lighthouse and sees Simon by the cave entrance. She tries to follow him, but she gets injured and lands in the crashing surf. Simon goes deeper into the cave as the husband cradles an inconsolable Laura. The thing is that only Laura saw Simon. Nonetheless, ships still scour the waters near the lighthouse looking for Simon, but find no trace of him. Laura is taken to the hospital because of her injury. There she meets a police psychologist who informs her that the social worker who visited her before isn't really a social worker. That night, the husband comforts Laura by giving her his St. Anthony medallion. He tells her that it will bring them good luck, and she can return it to him when they've found Simon. After they go to sleep, Laura dreams of swimming in the sea. She wakes up and hears a clanging sound from Simon's bedroom. But when she enters the room, there's no one except a doll left on his bed. 6 months pass, and they still haven't found their missing son. Laura and her husband attend group therapy, and she shares that she believes that Simon's imaginary friends really are in the house. While the couple is heading home, they encounter Benigna in the middle of the street. She's pushing a stroller, and Laura calls her. Benigna turns and looks at her, then an ambulance comes out of nowhere and hits the woman. The husband runs to resuscitate her, but Laura looks at the stroller first, thinking that Simon might be there. But there's nothing but a doll of a boy wearing a mask inside. The mysterious lady, Benigna, dies on the scene. Later on, the psychologist shows Laura the things the police found in Benigna's house. First, there's a picture of the orphans and employees in the orphanage, including Laura. The psychologist tells her that Benigna was actually made there and that she had a son born with a deformity named Thomas. He was kept hidden from the world because of his defect. The psychologist then shows her a few rolls of film. Laura watches them at home, and she sees that Thomas looks exactly like the boy she had seen in the house the day Simon disappeared. Apparently, a few weeks after Laura was adopted, the other orphans played a prank on Thomas and removed his mask while they were in the beachside cave. He refused to go out without his mask, and so he drowned when the high tide came in. Still not able to shake the otherworldly feelings surrounding her son's disappearance, Laura attends a paranormal conference. The professor of parapsychology there recommends that she get in touch with a renowned psychic. Later, the professor and the group arrive at the orphanage for a seance. The psychic is in one room, while the others are in another, watching everything through the cameras. She communes with the spirits in the house, which she identifies as children. The psychic moves around during the seance and stops in front of a door. The equipment picks up the wails and cries of children begging to be released. The psychic opens the door and tells the others that she sees 5 children who were poisoned and dying. The cameras go haywire, and the professor ends the seance. Later on, the psychic says that the layout of the house that she saw was very different and older than it is now, but she wasn't able to see Simon's spirit during the seance. The husband and the psychologist are very skeptical of what happened, but Laura believes that the spirits of the children really are in the house. The husband proposes that he and Laura get away from the orphanage for a while. He's fed up with Laura's paranormal quest, and he wants them to move on. But Laura can only think of being with Simon. The next day, a window mysteriously breaks while Laura is in the children's room. The shards fall on the seat cushion. She pries it away and discovers her fellow orphans' names written on the floorboards. Under these floorboards are dolls and a single picture of her with Simon. She realizes that this is yet another treasure hunt. She grabs their family photo album and sees a dried rose stuck between the pages. This is a clue for her to go to the rose bush in the garden, where she finds a piece of cloth from Simon's bedspread. The next item leads her to a doorknob inside one of his boxes. Laura finds the matching door in the shed. She steps inside and sees a portrait of Benigna lying on the floor near the locked coal storage. She manages to open it and discovers the remains of the 5 orphans hidden inside sacks. The truth is finally revealed. After Thoma's death, Benigna enacted her revenge on the 5 orphans for playing a cruel prank on her son. She served them a poisoned blueberry cake, then hid their remains in the shed for years. When Laura bought the orphanage, Benigna got scared that she would discover the bodies sooner or later, and that's why she impersonated a social worker and was in the shed that night trying to cover up her crimes. The husband leaves the orphanage later. Laura is now alone, and she decides to recover the house to how it looked like when the orphans were still alive. She also gathers some blueberries in the surrounding woods. Finally, she wears the old orphanage uniform and takes some sleeping pills. Laura rings the bell, trying to call the spirits of the children to the dinner table she had prepared. At first, the orphans don't show up, She realizes that the children want her to play with them, so she starts knocking on the wall like they used to do when they were young. The orphans begin to appear one by one, then they scatter into separate directions. Laura follows a girl into one of the storage closets, and she discovers a hidden door. She can't get inside until she grabs the doorknob left for her by the spirits and slides it neatly into the hole in the door. She opens it and goes down a set of stairs to the room where Thomas was kept when he was alive. There she finds Simon, who appears to be alive and well. He asks Laura to stay and play with them. She bundles him up in a blanket and tells him to close his eyes so they can both escape the nightmare. Suddenly, the blanket falls away, and Laura realizes that Simon isn't alive. His corpse is under the stairs wearing Thomas' sack. It turns out, on that day of the party, Simon had insisted that he and Laura go to Thomas' house, which was actually the secret room. After Laura left him upstairs, Simon went to the room by himself. Laura returned the scaffolding that fell out of the closet while she was looking for him, and the scaffolding actually blocked the door to the room, trapping Simon inside. The crashing sound that Laura heard that night was actually from Simon falling from the stairs. Laura takes her son's corpse upstairs to the orphan's room. She overdoses on the sleeping pills and begins to see the spirit of Simon. He tells her that his wish is for her to stay with him and the orphans. Laura obliges and calls the orphans to her. She begins to tell them a bedtime story. After the discovery of Laura and Simon's bodies, a memorial is erected in their and the orphan's memory. The movie ends with the husband now staying alone in the orphan's room. He sees the medallion that he gave Laura and smiles as the doors to the room swing open, indicating that it is the beginning of a new treasure hunt for him. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.